So we are at the end of the day. Thanks again, everyone, for your participation, for your interest. And in order to accelerate, we decided to cut a slot to allow to say a few final words before saying goodbye. Okay, so let's introduce Luca so that everyone can go home. So, hello everyone. I think Pasquale is sending the presentation, so I'm going to be very quick. These are some technical details that not everyone is interested in. So, I should start talking about these technical details, but I'm going to be, as I said, very quick. So with Seeq, we are focusing on performance, usability, and augmentation of system capacity. So we're working on performance, delivering a horizontally scalable computation platform. And my friends say that this is the best computational engine in the world. I don't know if I should believe them, but I do. And it's a good change also for scalability to key customers. Now, simplicity is delivered at every level, and this helps delivering a workflow associated with enterprise monitoring. Thus, it is a vocation not only for enterprises but also for single interventions, and we can bring data from process to businesses where the value is applied on field. And extensibility. Basically, these add-ons can be deployed and manage new capabilities to target high-value use cases. It is that component that we were mentioning with different variabilities. Now, it's made by Seeq, but it's also being developed by several partners, as we saw with some examples before. Now, this, for example, is interesting for generative artificial intelligence, which is a very strong topic right now. So we are touching code, low code and no code, basically assistance in different areas. And you can ask questions, you can ask to perform some tasks. And here's a little video, I don't know if it works.
AI assistance in Seeq have four main functions. The first function is chat. Ask a question in an active cell in your notebook. The second is...
So, it's going. You can ask questions here. You can ask for debugs of codes, and then you can see the type of information and suggestions and launch a test. Is it working? Yes. So, our colleague here is asking a question. For example, he's saying, I would like to measure an expenditure in certain conditions and compare it with temperatures, with other ratios, for example, and you can obtain a code answering these questions. So let me launch it.
This debugs your code and explains the problems and solutions. The third is review. Seeq GPT will review your code, make comments and suggestions for improvements. And then finally, the test function, where the assistant will write a test for your code. Let's explore these features with a simple example. We start by asking it to pull all sensor data from Area C in Cooling Tower 1 for the past week. The Seeq GPT assistant then answers the question in the cell below. The answer comes streaming in and is explaining the code step by step. After this explanation, the code is then printed out, ready to be run in your notebook. After running the code provided by the assistant, we can see that it works and pulls the desired data from Cooling Tower 1. Now let's do something with this data. And let's start a conversation in the side panel with our Seeq GPT assistant to help us, for example, to smooth these signals and send them back to view in Workbench. We do this step by step and read the responses carefully to make sure it's applicable to our situation. We can see that our assistant has given us some Python code to smooth our signals using a rolling average. Great, this looks good. Let's click the Insert Code into Cell button and update the window size to 10 and then run this code. Unfortunately, we have an error. Let's ask for help from our Seeq GPT assistant and use its debug function. Our assistant explains to us that there is a data type issue while running the smoothing method, telling us that one of the columns in our data frame is not numeric. It explains the potential fix to the problem and provides the improved and debug code below. If we scroll back up, we can confirm this by looking at the compressor stage column, seeing that it is in fact non-numeric. Now let's run this code and check the data. Great, this data looks good, so now let's combine these two data frames by asking our assistant how, and running supplied code. After obtaining the final resulting data frame, we also need to find out how to push data to Seeq Workbench. Once again, we get a detailed explanation of the methods suggested and provided with code that can achieve the question asked. After running this code, we see it completes the task and provides a link to the workbook produced that contains the original data and the data smoothed in our notebook in Seeq Data Lab. Let's have a closer look at one of the signals and zoom in to check how well the smoothing function was applied. Looking closer, we can see that the resulting smooth curve is pretty good. The spikes in the peak of the curve have now been smoothed, and thus our example goal has been achieved with no code writing or required Python knowledge. This is just a small example of how Seeq GPT can assist you in your analytics workflow.
So you saw this example of Seeq GPT providing part of a code. So this language can be quite similar to Excel, and you saw the application of workbenches, which is one of the things you can do with it. Now, we've been working on these 4 products: Seeq Organizer, Workbench, Seeq Data Lab, and Cortex. So some of these may make miracles, as you see. These are some of the most interesting aspects that we've been developing: notifications, subscriptions, tabs. So we want to develop Seeq at an enterprise level to give more focus on monitoring and performance. Now, let's skip this. Let me just highlight the activation of the Data Hub connector, which works at data level, R62, Korean language support. I don't know if you're interested in that, and many other formula functions. Let me just be quick about this. And in R63 in testing, we have once again notification development and the possibility to improve visualization and other notification abilities and conditions, which I won't go too much into detail about. Thank you. Hopefully everything will work perfectly. Now, let me just remind you that this is a cloud-native solution. This means scalability, reliability. It means being in line with continuous learning and monitoring and innovation, as well as computing solutions. Now, extensibility. There is a gallery of add-ons made by Seeq and partners. Here are some examples. For example, bench optimization, deep learning for emission predictions. These add-ons are available in the Workbench for engineers. So they are made available as possible actions in the Workbench. We also have solutions which are a bit more complex. We talked about Amazon Lookout for equipment, for example. We mentioned our process health solution, which is what you saw in the in the process performance. We have Sustainability Manager, which is a monitoring function for environmental impacts, and some other things. Now, I won't go too much into detail about process health solution, but basically it checks variabilities, variables, and process performances. In this solution, we have another component which is not part of the standard package, but it can be interesting in case someone wants to know more about it. Thank you. So, question for a friend. Do you have any insights about GPT integration? Well, this assistant is presented here. Maybe Graham knows about the timeline better than me for the GPT integration.
It should be this year, but there's a lot of work going on to get everything perfected prior to release. And there'll probably be some select customers able to test it as well. So if that is something that you might be interested in, you can speak to us and we can think about the use case that you might apply it to. But I can't give you a definitive time for when it will be released. But there's a lot of work going into it because you can see the power of it. It would make everybody's life easier to be able to use that and have the chat GPT generate code and tell you what you're doing wrong. So yeah, it will be as soon as we can get it out.
It will be as soon as we've developed it. Any other questions? When do we leave? Now. Perfect. Okay. Now it's time to say goodbye. Let me call Fabio Villa. Okay, so we're done. I just wanted to thank you all. It's been a huge pleasure, and I hope this was a fruitful day and an interesting session for you. We're going to contact you within the next few weeks to have some more precise feedback, and thanks again for being here with us today. I would like to thank all the speakers for contributing to today's success. Thank you.